The federal courthouse in Cincinnati was unusually tense that morning. The air smelled of polished wood and stale coffee, the kind of sterile atmosphere that made even the most confident men straighten their ties and check their watches. At the defendant's table sat J.D. Vance, his expression unreadable, his fingers tapping a slow rhythm against the mahogany surface. The case itself was mundane, a legal dispute over property rights, but the undercurrent in the room suggested something far more volatile was about to unfold. Behind the bench, Judge Edwin Harrow adjusted his robes with the deliberate slowness of a man who enjoyed the weight of his own authority. His reputation preceded him. Brilliant, yes, but with a temper that turned courtrooms into battlegrounds. As he glanced at Vance, something flickered in his eyes. Disdain, amusement, or the quiet thrill of a man about to wield power like a weapon. "Mr. Vance," the judge began, his voice dripping with false civility, "I must say, it's rare to see a political figure of your caliber in my courtroom." The pause was deliberate, the emphasis unmistakable. A murmur rippled through the gallery. Was this just judicial decorum, or the first strike in a war of words? Vance's lawyer stiffened, sensing the trap. But before he could object, Harrow continued, "Then again, given your unique relationship with the truth, perhaps I shouldn't be surprised." The words hung in the air, sharp as a blade. Gasps echoed. Reporters in the back row leaned forward, pens poised. Was the judge really going there? In open court? Without evidence? Vance's jaw tightened, but he didn't flinch. He had faced worse than a robed bully with a gavel. Yet the question lingered. What line had Harrow just crossed? And more importantly, what would happen when Vance crossed back? The tension was a live wire. And then, with the subtlety of a match dropped in gasoline, the judge smirked. It was the last mistake he'd ever make in that courtroom. The silence that followed Judge Harrow's remark was deafening. Even the court stenographer's fingers hovered over the keys, as if unsure whether to record the insult verbatim. J.D. Vance exhaled slowly, his gaze locked onto the judge with the quiet intensity of a man recalculating his next move. "Your Honor," Vance said, his voice dangerously calm, "I'd appreciate it if we could keep the personal commentary out of these proceedings." Harrow leaned back, his smirk widening. "Oh, come now, Senator. Surely a man who's built his career on controversial statements can handle a little scrutiny." He gestured lazily toward the jury. "Or is the truth only convenient when it serves you?" The gallery erupted in whispers. This wasn't just bias, it was outright hostility. Vance's attorney shot to his feet. "Objection! Your Honor is testifying, not presiding." But Harrow waved him off. "Overruled. I'm merely ensuring the jury understands the character of the witness before them." Vance's fingers curled into fists under the table. He had stayed composed through political smear campaigns, through media crucifixions. But this was different. This was a judge, a man sworn to impartiality, openly weaponizing the bench. And then, the unthinkable happened. A sharp knock at the courtroom doors cut through the tension. Every head turned as two federal marshals stepped inside, their expressions grim. One approached the bailiff, handed him a folded document, and whispered something that made the older man's eyes widen. Harrow frowned. "What is the meaning of this interruption?" The bailiff hesitated, then walked stiffly to the bench. He handed the judge the paper. As Harrow unfolded it, his face drained of color. Judge Harrow's hands trembled slightly as he scanned the document. The smug superiority that had defined his demeanor moments earlier evaporated, replaced by something far more primal: fear. His lips moved silently as if he were trying to convince himself the words on the page weren't real. The lead federal marshal stepped forward. "Judge Harrow, you are hereby ordered to step down from the bench." A stunned silence gripped the courtroom. Then, like a dam breaking, the gallery erupted. Gasps, murmurs, the frantic scratching of reporters' pens. Cameras swiveled from Vance to the judge, capturing every twitch of Harrow's face as the reality of his situation set in. "This is absurd," Harrow snapped, crumpling the paper in his fist. "On what grounds?" The marshal remained stone-faced. "Federal indictment, obstruction of justice, bribery." Each charge landed like a hammer blow. "You'll need to come with us." For the first time in his career, Harrow had no clever retort, no judicial shield to hide behind. His eyes darted to Vance, who hadn't moved, hadn't even smiled, just watched. The realization hit Harrow like a physical blow. This wasn't coincidence. The marshals moved in, one gripping Harrow's elbow. The judge jerked away instinctively, his pride refusing to let him be led out in cuffs like a common criminal. But resistance was futile. The second marshal produced a pair of handcuffs, the metallic click echoing in the now silent courtroom. "You can't do this," Harrow's voice cracked. "I am a federal judge." "Not anymore," the marshal replied. As the cuffs closed around his wrists, the weight of his own arrogance finally crushed him. The man who had spent years belittling defendants, mocking witnesses, and wielding his power like a weapon was now just another man in shackles. And then, from the back of the courtroom, someone began to clap. The applause spread, first a few scattered claps, then a wave of it, rolling through the gallery like thunder. Some were journalists, some were spectators. A few even looked like former defendants who had suffered under Harrow's tyranny. The sound was cathartic, a release of pent-up frustration at a system that had allowed a man like this to hold so much power for so long. Harrow's face twisted in humiliation as the marshals escorted him toward the doors. He shot one last venomous glare at Vance, as if blaming him for this downfall. But Vance simply met his gaze, unflinching. No smirk, no gloating, just the quiet satisfaction of justice served. Outside the courtroom, chaos erupted. Reporters shoved microphones toward the marshals, shouting questions. Was this a sting operation? How long has the FBI been investigating Harrow? But the real story was unfolding inside. Vance's attorney approached the new judge hastily assigned to the case, a no-nonsense woman with sharp eyes and zero tolerance for theatrics. "Your Honor, given the circumstances, we move for immediate dismissal of all charges against my client." The new judge didn't hesitate. Granted. Just like that, it was over. But the implications were far-reaching. Within hours, news outlets would explode with the story. Corrupt judge arrested after targeting J.D. Vance in court. Legal analysts would dissect the case. Pundits would debate whether Vance had played a role in Harrow's downfall. And social media would erupt with memes of the judge's stunned face as the cuffs closed around his wrists. Yet for Vance, the victory wasn't just personal, it was symbolic. A reminder that no one, no matter how powerful, is above accountability. As Vance stepped out of the courthouse, the afternoon sun hit his face, warm and bright. A crowd had gathered, supporters, curious onlookers, even a few protesters. Cameras flashed, and reporters shouted questions, but Vance didn't stop. He didn't need to. The story spoke for itself. His phone buzzed incessantly. Congratulations, interview requests, allies marveling at the sheer poetic justice of it all. But Vance only cared about one call. He answered it, his voice softening for the first time all day. "It's done," he said. On the other end, his wife let out a relieved sigh. "I knew it would be." No grand speech, no victory lap. Just the quiet knowledge that sometimes the system works. Back inside the courthouse, Harrow's empty bench loomed like a monument to fallen hubris. The marshals had taken him away, his legacy now reduced to mugshots and headlines. Meanwhile, clerks and lawyers whispered in the halls, already swapping stories about the day the courtroom exploded. But for Vance, this wasn't about revenge. It was about something far more powerful. Justice. Not the kind handed down from a high bench, but the kind that comes when corruption is exposed, when arrogance meets its match, when the truth wins. And as he walked away, one thought echoed. In his mind, no one saw this coming, but maybe they should have.